Welcome back to the MrShowTym podcast. Now, today is going to be quite the very controversial topic, right? To my American audiences, I am a South African YouTuber, right? Welcome. And I'm saying this because this is going to catch some heat from my viewers over at the United States, right? So in this video, I'm here to challenge Ben Shapiro's stance on Whoopi Goldberg's controversial statement about the Jews and the Holocaust not being about race. 3 months ago, Whoopi Goldberg made a controversial statement about the Holocaust atrocity not being about race as it pertains to the genocide of Jewish people. Now, here's the thing. It really bothers me how people reacted about this because especially Ben Shapiro himself. Because for someone who's very logical, I thought Ben Shapiro would squash this, which is why I immediately ran to his channel, because I was like, okay, let me hear what Ben Shapiro has to say about this. I hope he's going to just, squash this in a matter of minutes. Actually, quite the opposite happened. Ben Shapiro slammed Whoopi Goldberg for her comments, saying that Holocaust was about race, because Whoopi Goldberg said no, it wasn't about race because the Nazis were white people and the Jews were mostly white people. So how can it be about race? Because it was white on white crime. I mean, we've all heard the term black on black crime. Yeah, the Holocaust was white on white crime, right? Because the Nazis were white and the Jews were white. But hold on, whoa, that's where the smoke came into fruition. Because according to most people, Jewish, it's not a religion. Apparently, it's a race or an ethnicity. How? Because Christianity, we can all agree that Christianity is a religion, right? We can all agree that Islam is a religion, yes? We can agree that Hindu is a religion, yeah? What about Jewish people, Judaism? How is that a race? Because it's a religion. It's a practiced faith. You see, ladies and gentlemen, a Christian, let's talk about Ben Shapiro himself. According to his government records, right, when you tick your gender, male and female, Ben Shapiro ticks male, right? When it comes to the ethnicity box, the race box, there's options such as white, black, Asian, and other, which I've never really understood. I don't know what other is, but anyway, you get the point. Ben Shapiro, I'm pretty sure when he ticks one of those race boxes, I'm pretty sure he ticks white. But seemingly, as he slammed Whoopi Goldberg, I'm not so sure anymore. He might tick other. But if he does tick white, let's say, for example, let me just give him the benefit of the doubt, because Ben Shapiro, you look at him for the first time, at first glance, you would think that that's a white man. That's a white guy, right? Just any person, just first glance, that's a white guy, right? Unless I have become colorblind, which I doubted. Ben Shapiro probably ticks white. He probably ticks the white box, which would be very contradictory of his statement. Because now he's arguing that no, the Holocaust was about race. How? Because it was white on white crime. If it's white on white crime, how can it be about race? Because, listen, before the colonial era, before the European colonialists were colonizing other nations, they were Europeans themselves. They used to have wars amongst each other. The Italians didn't like the Portuguese didn't like the Spanish didn't like the French didn't like the British didn't like the Irish. Apparently they separated, right? Ireland is no longer part of the UK, the United Kingdom, right? The Russians don't like the Slovenians, right? So were those wars back in the day, were they racial? When the Spanish fought the French, when the Italians fought against the Spanish, when the Spanish fought against, let's say, the Scots or the Welsh, were those racial issues? Were those racial wars, or what? It was tribalism? Same thing. Like it really blows my mind, because Europeans themselves used to have wars before they colonized the globe. So what, are you going to call that racial wars too? Or were they just tribal wars? Asians themselves, Genghis Khan conquered most of Asia, conquered other nations such as Vietnam, even though maybe it wasn't called Vietnam back in the day, but whatever, you get the idea. Conquered Mongolia, Nepal. Were those racial wars, or were they tribal wars? Same thing in Africa. You get the Zulus, the Xhosas, the Sutus. Shaka Zulu used to have wars with other African tribes. That was tribal, not racial. So, coming back to the whole Holocaust thingy, you see, I kind of missed the point about Ben Shapiro himself as to why he pushed back against Whoopi Goldberg's views. It's because Ben Shapiro himself, I forgot, he himself is part of the Jewish faith. Keyword, faith, religion. You see, during the Holocaust, the Nazis would make the Jews wear yellow stars. I think it was like an armband around the wrist, right? Or a star on the, whatever. A star. They'll make them wear a star, right? Why? So that they can identify them. Now, if Jews were a different race, there would be no need to make them wear stars, because they would have been easily identifiable. Why? Because they would have supposedly been from a different race. But that wasn't the case. The Jews were Caucasian. The Jews were white people. Because someone who's from a different race, you can clearly see them at first glance that this person doesn't look like me. They belong from a different race. They have different skin color, different facial features. It's clearly evident. It's obvious. Right? So that's why, because the Jews were white people themselves also, they needed a way to identify them. And how is to make them wear stars. See, ladies and gentlemen, I understand the outrage the public outrage about Whoopi Goldberg's comments is because we have become a society that's very sensitive about racial issues, and we're trying to move away from those atrocities of the past. So much so that anything that suggests racial tensions, people are quick to erupt. Because we're so sensitive, we're trying to avoid these things so much so that anything that just suggests, hints of racism, society erupts. There was nothing wrong with what Whoopi Goldberg said. Now, I also find it funny because Whoopi Goldberg works for the TV network called... Okay, Whoopi Goldberg shared her view on a network she works for that is called The View. So she was suspended because she shared her view on the network she works for called The View. I mean, just really think about this. She was fired for sharing her views on a network that she works for called The View. This is just absolutely asinine, to say the least. This is laughable. There's nothing wrong with what Whoopi Goldberg said. The Holocaust really wasn't about race. It was tribal wars. It was atrocities based on tribalism. Hitler didn't like the Jews because he smeared propaganda about about Germany's economic downfall, and he blamed it on the Jews. In summary, right? He hated the Jews so much so that he saw them as he just really wanted to distance everyone else from them distinctively. So much so to the point of genocide, which is unfortunate, and it's wrong, and it's inhumane. But the war wasn't based on race, because they were both white. Jews at the time, it's not like the Jews during the Holocaust. It's not like they, according to their government records, their ethnicity, it's not like they ticked Asian or African, right? They ticked white, which is the same race as the Nazis. So how can it be about race? How? Ladies and gentlemen, we in this modern day society, we operate way too much on emotionalism. What do I mean by that? We receive certain information, and our first response is to respond emotionally rather than logically and rationally. And this is one of our downfalls today. Now, I understand why Ben Shapiro himself had his disagreements, because he himself is a Jew and he's a white guy. He's not black. He's not Asian. He's white. So how can it be? Again, I've said this. This must be the third or fourth time I'm saying this. How was the Holocaust about race? It was tribalism. It was man's inhumane actions and hatred for one another within the same milieu. If there were Asian Jews at the time, they would have probably suffered the same fate. If there were Middle Eastern Jews, they would have probably suffered the same fate. But there were white folks at the time, they were Jewish, modern day Jews. They suffered that, the Holocaust. So it wasn't about race, because they're both white. Most Jews of today are white. Mark Zuckerberg, are you going to tell me Mark Zuckerberg is from a different race Mark Zuckerberg is a white guy. He's a white person. So now you're going to tell me, no, he's not a white person. He's Jew. Jew is not a race. It's a faith. It's a religion. Jews, they follow the Torah. And they have bar mitzvahs. It's a faith. It's a religious faith. It's a religious practice. Just like me. I identify as a Christian. Christianity is not a race. It's a religion. It's a faith. Now, you can't say that because I am Christian, I'm from a different race. No, I'm African. I'm black. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's be more rational at first before we hear, controversial notions from the mainstream media up to a point where we're just losing touch of reality. Right? I mean, another thing, Ben Shapiro's fellow colleague from the Daily Wire, Matt Walsh, right? He didn't do a video about Whoopi Goldberg's controversial Nazi Jewish comments. I wonder why. I mean, it couldn't possibly be because he doesn't have he doesn't share the same views, which is why he didn't bother doing a video about it. At least I can appreciate some form of authenticity from the people at the content creators of the Daily Wire. That shows some authenticity because usually they would do topics at the same time and they would have pretty much the same views about certain topics and news that came out. Matt Walsh didn't do a video about it, so I can at least appreciate some level of authenticity. Now, of course, I'm not going to come out and say, no, Ben Shapiro's wrong, or he disagrees because they're colleagues, right? It's going to make the Daily Wire look bad. So he would rather not do a video about it. I get it. Yeah, Michael Knowles, Candace Owens might have did a video on it. They're well entitled to their opinion. I just disagree. Greatly. Really, really greatly. This is one of the more illogical, more emotionally charged outtakes, responses from what Whoopi Goldberg said. And that she simply stated the facts. The Nazis were white. Were they not? The Jews, most modern day Jews are white. Are they not? And they follow a Jewish faith. Some follow a Christian faith. What's so controversial about that? But anyway, that's my little take about it. One more notion. You see, there are three major categories of racial distinctions of human beings. You get the Africans or blacks. You get the Caucasians or white people. And then you get the Mongolianoids, which have subcategories of Asian and Indian, Southeast Indian. And it can even go as far as the Oceania tribe, the Oceania nations, of which, you get your Samoans, Polynesians, which they themselves come from Asia, and Africans, because the Fijians, they come from Africa. They have like mixtures of Asian blood in them, right? They sailed across the Pacific Ocean, and then they stumbled upon the Pacific Islands. But that's a different story. I digress. But anyway, that's my challenge and my disagreement towards Ben Shapiro himself. Ben, are you not a white guy? Yes or no? I think yes, you are. And you happen to follow a Jewish religion. Right? But anyway, that's my little take on it. Yeah, Whoopi Goldberg really didn't say anything wrong. She should not have apologized. Whoopi Goldberg, if you happen to see this, you should not have apologized. Because you said nothing wrong. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.